Hello, everyone. Welcome to Redskins Talk TV. This is your host, Andre. Just want to talk about the game today. Try to make this a quick video. Very disappointing game because of the loss. And it's not the fact that we lost, it's the manner in which we lost that's got me upset. We had the game going into halftime. The game was tied up at 7-7. Got into the third quarter, and we were actually able to make some plays, got some turnovers, had the score up 21-7. Now, going into the end of the third quarter, the Broncos, they were able to get the game tied up, basically going into the beginning of the fourth quarter, But what's happened is when the Broncos made their adjustments after halftime, that's when our defense started to falter because they played exceptional in the first half. They were able to hold Peyton Manning to only 7 points. They were able to move the ball somewhat, but in terms of making anything positive and getting some points out of it, they weren't able to. And we were able to move the ball. It was a back and forth battle, but all the same, it was not quite the game that people were expecting because everyone thought that it was going to be a blowout from the very first possession of the Broncos to the very end. The trouble happened, as I stated, after the second half started, when the Broncos got the first possession. They were able to score. They got on the first possession. They marched down the field and scored. For us, unfortunately, because of the breakdown with our defense, Broncos, they started running a couple of plays, some bubble screens, and also a few crossing patterns where our guys got caught up, guys out of position. So we did not hold up on defense the same way we did in the first half. And the Broncos, once again, were able to catch up. Going into the fourth quarter, at the very beginning of the fourth quarter, because at that time, the Broncos, they had the ball. They were pretty much right at the goal line, and it had been fourth down. John Fox decided to go ahead and go for it. They ran a play. Our guys let one of the tight ends, it's like a third-string tight end, gave him a free release, wide open, and Gums, I think that's our defensive back, number 48, just allowed him to get open. They scored, end up tying up the score. From there, the train wreck began to unravel, starting on our first possession of the fourth quarter. For some reason, Kyle Shanahan veered away from what kept the game close for us in terms of our ability to try to make things happen throughout the game. Now, we weren't getting a lot of the positive yardage that we were, but I was a firm believer that we had to give a steady dose of running to Alfred Morris and or Roy Helu, or at least run a couple of read option plays for Robert Griffin III to get out of the pocket, really just keep the defense for the Broncos off balance. They do have one of the top-rated defenses for the run, but we were able to actually move, and Alfred Morris, he had a moderate day, but without getting all the touches, we weren't able to wear down the defense from that aspect. And then, of course, when it came to the passing, because they had the 29th ranked defense in the league, I'm not saying that we should have gone deep on every play, but exploiting the middle of the field on a couple of short passes, some quick slants, anything in order to utilize the talent that we have as our flankers, slot receivers, our tight ends, running backs catching out of the backfield. It just began to break down. Now, Robert Griffin III, he didn't look quite as polished as he did last week against the Bears. There were a couple of overthrows, a couple of times where he got hit, floated the ball up. There were a couple of interceptions. There's also a time where he got sacked. But in that instance, especially when he got sacked, the fault, once again, is because Kyle Shanahan, in my belief, was not calling any run plays. With the game being tied, there was no reason to panic. 15 whole minutes of the fourth quarter in order for us to try to move the ball down the field and at least get some points, whether a field goal or a touchdown. Kyle Shanahan decided to just drop Robert Griffin back as a pocket passer, which he can do, but our wide receivers, especially the flankers, were not getting open. So he was taking hits, got sacked, and shit started to unravel. He did fumble because pass protection broke down, and he got snuck from behind, just like against the Dallas game. all this time, I'm sitting there yelling, and my wife will tell you, I'm yelling at the TV screen, why the fuck is Kyle Shanahan not calling any run plays? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel the same way. Even some of the commentators were talking about the fact that we abandoned the run. And that's what really hurt the team, is because of piss poor play calling on offense and the breakdown for our defense. Now, as far as the corners, I think David Emerson and D'Angelo Hall did an outstanding job. But there were some breakdowns as far as with our linebackers and our safeties, bad angles. Tackling was okay. Can't really complain about that. But just being out of position, especially when the two screens had taken place, one to Moreno and the other one to Demaryius Thomas, where they ran for a touchdown. That really, really hurt us. And from there, it just became a train wreck. Robert Griffin III, sitting in the pocket, kept getting hit, which is something that people have always been talking about, saying that he's reckless for running and taking the hits that he does. But as a pocket passer, for him to take hits, and quarterbacks do get hit, but then you got to understand, Robert Griffin III, he needs to be able to move, and that's something that Kyle Shanahan was not doing to keep the defense for the Broncos off balance. So once again, that I put squarely on the shoulders of Kyle Shanahan, because he is the offensive play caller, and he's not utilizing a lot of the things that made us successful last season. Yes, teams were able to look at game film. They have an understanding of the read option and the pistol formations and everything that we run, but being able to stop it is an entirely different thing, and we just didn't do it enough. And that's one of the problems that I saw with our offense. Robert Griffin III, he was off target some, so he's not out of the focus in terms of blame. But at the same time, our run game needs to be established, and we became very one-dimensional simply because we abandoned the run. And because of those mistakes, and also due to the fact that Robert, he had gotten hurt, you know, Kirk Cousins came in, and it was more the same thing. Really no running. Couple times where Kirk Cousins was staring down the receiver, in particular when he was staring down Pierre Garçon and Rogers Cromartie. He saw it coming, got the pick six, and that pretty much killed it for us. But he had thrown 2 interceptions. The second one that he threw, this lack of concentration by Jordan Reed, the ball was right in his hand. I thought he caught it, and it just popped up, and the defender got it. That pretty much sealed the deal for us. But this game, once again, I fault the defense, because, once again, people can blame Robert Griffin III. And I've gone to a lot of videos, and I've heard a lot of Redskins fans, and I've gone to a lot of other forums and read comments about how people blame Robert Griffin III, saying that he's a bust and he's this and that, he's not holding up. But it all boils down to this. Number 10 is not on the defense. You don't see him anywhere on the field trying to stop the receivers, as far as the opposing receivers, from marching down the field. He is on offense, and what he does on that side of the ball has a huge impact as far as our success, but he cannot stop the opposing team from going and scoring. That's entirely up to our defense, and that's something that he should not be responsible for. And I would say that any Redskins fan who feels that Robert Griffin III is the one piece that can make everything go round, maybe you don't know much about football, and I'm not going to apologize for saying that, but there's 11 guys on offense, and the skill position players, the receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, they all have their role just like the quarterback does. Even though he touches the ball 100% of the time, when there's a run play that's called, he either runs it or he hands it off to the running back. And with our type of system that we have, we just did not utilize that. But at the same time, there were some missed passes. So that is, in effect, Robert Griffin's fault, because he was missing some open receivers. But there were also some drop passes by the receivers that were catchable, and that's not Griffin's fault. At the same time, Kyle Shanahan not calling the run plays, he doesn't have the kind of leverage that Peyton Manning does to just go to the huddle and call his own plays, or while he's under center, call audibles or make changes to the play. He did that in Indianapolis, and John Fox has given him the leverage to do it in Denver. That's something that our young quarterback does not have the capability of doing. So for the people that are saying that he's not able to read defenses, he can read defenses. There was no problem with him reading the defenses last season. So what's the difference now? I can't really attribute it to rust, because he's been starting every game since game 1. He's just gotten more and more rust shaken off. But at the same time, for those who want to blame him for this loss or any other loss, once again, the turnovers that took place that I saw from him were not his fault, with the exception of when he was back in the pocket, he got stripped because he's got to have better pocket presence. He should have been able to just tuck the ball and run if he felt that things were breaking down. So that's all on instinct. But as far as the interceptions, those were not his fault because, one, Pierre Garçon slipped on one and the receiver caught that. And I can't remember quite how the other one took place, but all the same, this game was upsetting, and I blame Kyle Shanahan. I think that he needs to go. We need an offensive coordinator that's going to look at the players for the defense, look at our players on offense, and create the kind of mismatches that are going to help us to be successful, to give us the advantage. That's the one thing that Kyle Shanahan isn't doing. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a video at this. Go ahead and leave your comments. If you like this video, I hope that you like, subscribe, and share. And to my Redskins family, hail to the Redskins.